What is it called when you do something unexpected or unplanned, I guess? Improvised. As though prophets actually make everything up. What do they say? I don't have anything. There's Harry Balzac. I was just going to talk to you guys, whoever swings by, so ask me anything. It's an AMA. I don't have anything to talk about. I have, like, the dregs of charm on me. And I'm not going to publish this after this is finished. Thank you. I don't know what the heck this hat means. I think it's like a reference to Pac-Man, but it might be some sort of cultural symbol. So I don't know what it's supposed to be. Pac-Man eats pellets, right? The little magic pellets. Does Pac-Man get any power from the pellets? There's just that sound, right? No, if he gets all the pellets, then he gets to go on to the next level. Parson calls me a beast. You guys can read the chat, right? So I don't have to read the chat out loud. I can just talk about your names. Hey, Bill. Hey, KJ. Improvised. That's what this is. This is improvised. See, this is the great thing about live chat. You guys can correct me in real time. I can learn so much that I'll promptly forget. I don't know if the Illuminati got me so much as Evergreen College. I shouldn't point to where Evergreen College is because somebody will eventually geolocate me in this. Nothing much up, Johnny A-hole, and Strawberry Brandy. How you doing? Himdall's Gate. Could you tell me what that's a reference to? I should probably know that. Is that like something that the Germans shot through right before the Cold War started? Which is right after the Hot War ended. Oh, my political leanings. That's a good question. I feel incredibly incompetent when it comes to the political sphere. I have very vague leanings, but I don't really have a head for policy because let's see how I can say this. I view the world as a bunch of individuals, so I can't really make presuppositions or suppositions about groups of people. And to a fault, I think that we need to have an idea of groups of people as well as an idea or sense of the individual. And I have a hard time bridging that gap. I'm a radically individualized entity, which has helped me with my careers working on playgrounds. I do know who Matt is. Matt is an awesome person. Matt, I had a very brief email exchange with Matt. That guy is so put together. It's scary how put together he is. And I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I don't know if YouTube's going to somehow crash in upon itself, but you guys are watching. I guess we're all watching. We're witnessing the amalgamation of a number of individuals who are working out their mastery of this form of communication on their own, and they're not being strained through the gates of some sort of professional sphere. So it might be the case that if we get enough people to support us, and if those who are good enough at this get enough people to support them, and they get together enough or are able to kind of form bonds enough, we're gonna see the emergence of truly free media, possibly. But there's a lot of different things that have to happen for that to really take off. But Matt is going to be definitely at the head of the game of that. I don't have a doll where the SJW touched me other than reality. Well, you can't see my reality right now because I don't have the technology to foist it upon your eyeballs. This is kind of, just to let you guys know, this is just an AMA. I'm going to try to talk to this chat interface here, so I'm just going to be riffing. Farson, did you really like that Jung reading? I felt like I really failed on that because I was trying to pay attention to too many things at once. And I have to go through and individually say that things are not offensive here. So, yes, Farson, there was... Oh, shit, I deleted your joke. Do you guys know that Facebook is implementing an AI algorithm that is going to strain conversation of hate speech? Do you know how freaking phenomenally scary that is for me, somebody who likes to play around with words? How can an AI have a sense of wit? How can an AI have a sense of compassion? It's not possible, at least not yet. I think a lot of these... I'm never going to say argument. I hate saying argument. That just doesn't work for me. Argument. Like it's just like this, you're surfing through things. You know, argument is so freaking Germanic and argumentative. I'm not going to use that. I'm going to be skipping around a lot. I'm going to start talking about things and then forget what I was talking about. So you guys just keep chatting with me. KJ, it is scary. And the article I saw about the Facebook stuff was very brief and truncated, so I didn't really see exactly what they mean. But I do know, I think I heard this, and you guys can correct me, that YouTube is in cahoots with the Anti-Defamation League and that Southern Poverty Law Center to strain communication of hate speech. And I'm sorry to say this, but the Southern Poverty Law Center is really jumping the gun on what they consider hate and what they consider not hate. And I think Anna Sarkeesian, who's kind of like the less sexier, more enraged and leftist version of Sarah Palin, she's on board with the YouTube straining of communication, I believe. House Dog, do you want me to make some faces for you? Watching on the train? Can you even tell that I'm speaking to you? Can you do a bad lip reading of me? Someday somebody might do a bad lip reading of me. That would be great. It'd be wonderful. Sometimes I do bad lip readings in my head. Kind of live streaming autocorrect. It annoys the people who are close to me, but I like to mash words together. Hey, La Patria Olatumba, if you want to let us know what that name means, I'd love the reference. I see this French flag in your icon, and yet it seems like La Patria Olatumba is Hispanic or Spanish. Hey, Andre, what's up, man? Oh, I can talk about the Jordan Peterson event that I went to last week. That was great, and I'm going to try to make it down to the Jordan Peterson event in Portland next month. One of my bro friends, or my single bestest bro friend, he's got some tickets, and I might try to go along and stuff. I try to take it easy with watching Jordan Peterson. He's incredible, absolutely incredible, but I only need so much of him in my head. And I have other things I'm trying to fit in my head. So I only watch so much of him. So what I'm doing with these Jordan Peterson events is I'm hoping to actually meet people who know me online, who know this version of me, this two-dimensional version of me. So Jordan Peterson is more of a gateway into meeting people who are of like mind or of semi-like mind. This is the great thing about you and me and those who are commenting on me, every one of you, is that we don't have to agree with each other, and we're fine with that. We actually, I don't know if you like to disagree or not, but we always have in the reserve, agreement is not foremost in what ties our communicate together. It's more about dicing through things and thinking through things and correcting people's mispronunciations in the meanwhile. Hey, Maurice, what's up? Gabriel or Gabriel? Cannot tell if this is some genuine cultural hat. I know! I don't know what this hat is all about. It was just like one of the hats. And if you guys ever want to like buy me a hat, I have usually in my in the description of my videos, I have an Amazon link. I don't know how this Amazon wish lists works at all. I think you can probably buy things that I didn't put on there. So if you guys want to send me costumes, I promise to wear them. Actually, I never got around to thanking whoever sent me this teleprompter that I can't get to work. I need to get the right program for it that works with the kind of stuff that I do, but it's this really nice mirror thing. It's this very special thing where the camera doesn't see the reflection, but I get to see the reflection. I will eventually use this, so whoever sent me this, along with the Napoleon garb, thank you very much for that. That was great, and I promise to use this at some point, but I can't get the right program for it. CR Squirrel. Well, she's eating her marine. No, I can't put the cum word up there. You're waiting. I don't know what you're waiting for. Peace to you, Chicken Bridge. Absolutely, peace to you. You guys know it's Ramadan. This is personal. I'm more comfortable talking religion than politics, but I try not to talk about religion because that's very divisive, and religion should be the opposite of divisive. But I'm going to tell you this. I'm not Muslim, but for whatever reason, I am connected to a spiritual group that is derived somehow or related to Islam, and I've done Ramadan several times. I'm not doing it this year, hence the beer, but it has been, the times that I've done, it's the most intense form of growth that I've gone through. And we can use the word spiritual, but you can just think of it as personal growth. I've gone through a lot of growth participating in that, those rigors. And, you know, with balance and stuff like that. So, I'm going to go back again. If you're just jumping in, there's this chat interface over here, and I'm just going to ramble and go back and forth, and I don't think I'm going to publish this after it's done. So, love you too, Skylar. And I'm so proud I understand how to pronounce your name, because my best girlfriend, or my only girlfriend, my prime girlfriend, let's call her that, her brother's name is Skylar. And I actually worked on a street named Skylar that I constantly called Schuler until I learned that it's Skylar. So I'm glad I'm able to pronounce your name. It's a great name. If you know what it means, Skylar, or if anybody else does, put it in the chat so we can learn something here. You know what Bebo says? I studied Sufism, I studied Kabbalah, I studied Jewish mysticism, I studied Christian mysticism. That's where I ended up needing to go for my own peace of mind. And through that path, I found something that works for me that doesn't involve this thing, which is very troublesome. Do I listen to the Mixed Mental Arts podcast? I've never heard of that. I'd love to listen to that. I've been going through a bunch of evolutionary biology because I'm in cahoots. No, I'm not in cahoots, but I've been working closely with a couple of evolutionary biologists, and so I've felt the need to actually figure out what evolutionary biology is all about. And I have to say it's very persuasive. It is a total mindfuck, this whole evolutionary biology thing. It is a total mindfuck, and I can't really reconcile my personal experience with the way that this theory describes how the world has come to the state that it's in. But this theory, I surmise, is the best way to explain how this present world has come to be it is, and I think that we ignore that theory at our own peril. So, Skylar comes from the Dutch for scholar, or so you are, bingo, told. That's great. What do scholars do? What do scholars do nowadays? Do you guys like scholars? I used to love scholars, but I'm having some problems with scholars lately. I don't know. I want to be a scholar, but I don't have the patience to read that much. I have a hard time reading now. Since I started this YouTube thing, and after I finished my time at Evergreen College, which I've been talking about, I haven't really been able to pay attention to pages. I can only pay attention to the vocal. And so my mental life has kind of leapt from the written word into the spoken word, and you guys can probably tell that through how I've been interacting with you and how you found me and stuff. But I think knowledge can definitely and is actually moving back into the vocal, and that is going to bring up a whole host of very interesting subroutines in our communication. that I'm riffing, but I can't really go into. But the translation from the written word into the vocal word, there's some really great books on that, and I can't think of them off the top of my head. Some guy named ONG, he talks about it's not the vocal, what is it? Not the spoken. There's a word for that, but the oral, from oral knowledge into written knowledge. There was a translation in how we thought about the world, going from the oral into the written. And I think that we are going to witness the reverse translation from the written back into the oral. We're already witnessing that. And so the job for people like me who are trained vocalists and verbalists, I should say, in the writing, our job is to make sure that literature is translated back into the sonic realm. KJ, you listen to audiobooks when doing work around the house or computer. If you're on public transit, you read. Otherwise, I don't read so much anymore. It's weird. Do you guys read fiction? This is weird because I put fiction up on the YouTubes, but I cannot read fiction anymore. I feel really bad because I wanted to be a writer for so long, but I can't really read fiction anymore. Johnny, asshole, you disagree. What do you disagree with? Rachel, my hat's for cosplay. Should I have my tits out right now? Or is this not that kind of channel? Does anybody know what a thought is? T-H-O-T? I don't really understand that word. I like nonfiction too. No, Harry, Balzac, you are not ghosted. I see you. Everybody's lolling. I don't know what you're lolling about. Because I'm talking to a camera, you guys talking to a text field. I like nonfiction too. Thought. That hoe over there. Oh, it's an acronym. Why is it never capitalized, though? That's really sneaky. These internet people. That hoe over there. I always thought it was something like about the god thought, you know? Like about like the mental ruminations of Osiris or something like that. But no, it's just that hoe over there. Harry Balzac asks, do I think the current political climate is just another part of the pendulum swing or something more permanent? I think that it's not just a pendulum swing. I think that every single one of us is responsible for how far that thing swings. I think we all need to start putting on the brakes. And by putting on the brakes, not putting on the brakes in an aggressive manner, but actually putting the brakes on aggression. And that's what I hope my channel is trying to instantiate, is putting the brakes on the highfalutin, not the highfalutin, but the high tonality rhetoric, the impassioned rhetoric, because the passions are what will do us in. The passions are something that we need to stand on top of, not to allow to stand on top of us. And I think right now, the passions in public discourse right now, for whatever reason, the passions are on top of us. And I think all of us need to be involved in that. And Gabriel, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. It's hard because you don't have a photo. You ask, have I put more thought into the stuff you sent me earlier about the difficult problems of hate mailers? Yeah, I did. I thought about that. I put up, okay, I don't know how to talk about this. So, you guys know Evergreen State College? They had this big old blowout last year. There's this protest and stuff, and that's how I got into YouTube. I don't know who knows this, who doesn't, so I'm just going to say that this is what happened. There's a college somewhere in that direction that had a big old protest. And before the protest, there was this thing called the Day of Absence, Day of Presence. And traditionally at Evergreen, the Day of Absence was a day where persons of color, or black people specifically, it began as black people, but it was expanded to people of color. They voluntarily absented themselves from the campus. And they went off campus and they had a day to talk about issues and talk about things and show solidarity with one another. And then there was, after the Day of Absence, there was a Day of Presence, and then there was a bunch of multicultural activity. Now, supposedly it was supposed to be multicultural. But over the course of time, this multiculturalism got infected with this absolutely ridiculously divisive stuff called critical race theory. And so instead of being about celebrating difference, it was about denigrating the oppressors, denigrating the majority, right? So over the course of time, day of presence, day of absence came more about dissing on whiteness, whatever that means, and finding solidarity in and againstness. Now, last year in 2017, day of absence, day of presence, through the story's very complex, and I need to put this all out there so I can just be done with the Evergreen story. But the administration or the staff, let's say some certain staff groups, decided to switch the day of absence, day of presence, to have the white people go off campus and the non-white people, or the people of color, which is funny. I guess, no, you guys see how much color I have here? I mean, I guess there is some white because all my colors are blown out. But the people of color were on campus and the white people were invited, quote unquote, off campus. Now, that switch caused one of the professors at Evergreen, Brett Weinstein, you guys probably know him, he made an argument against that and said it's one thing for people to voluntarily absent themselves off a campus. It's another thing for people to say this group needs to go. There's a total difference from that. Anyways, Brett Weinstein got in a lot of the protest wasn't really even about him. He was just targeted by the protesters because they needed a series of events in order to, express their discontent with the racist, sexist, homophobic institution. Anyhow, the protests happened. Day of absence, day of presence got a lot of press coverage because it is very salacious. Wait, what? White people are told to go off campus? Even if you say it how it actually was, that they were invited, it still doesn't sound right. It's very wide open to the worst possible interpretation. Now, protests happen. The administration of Evergreen State College, while they are woefully, utterly incompetent on reading what the public actually means, woefully incompetent with that, they knew enough to not do this day of absence, day of presence thing. Again, they knew enough not to do that. The students, however, decided to host their own day of absence, day of presence, where they put together, right now this week, they're putting together some events that are basically segregated. So there's events for the people of color, and then there's some events for everybody, right? Which includes the allies, as they're called. And allies is a misnomer. Ally actually means suppliant. Ally means basically servant. Ally is not traditionally what ally means. Ally is mean that there's a mutually beneficent relationship, right? That's not ally anymore. The ally is now somebody subservient to somebody else. Anyways, so the students now are hosting their own day of absence, day of presence events. And of course, the stuff where everybody's welcome to is all against anti-whiteness or anti-racism and stuff like that. Anyways, so I got wind of this event and I posted it to Twitter, right? And I feel bad about posting this like little flyer thing to Twitter because while I've been talking about Evergreen, it's been very important for me, for public perception of me, to not really talk about the students, to talk about the adults, right? Well, the students are adults because they're in college, but I wanted to save myself from the criticism of targeting students, right, who are learning. The students are learning how to go through these things, and the administration should definitely know better. So I've been trying to critique and save my critique for the administration, but I posted that, and it hasn't gone viral, but some certain websites have picked up this story, and today, this very day, here's the end of the story. Thanks for holding with me, guys. I haven't read this thing. I'm trying to get the story out. Today, the College Fix published an article about the day of absence event that the students are putting on that is very segregated, that is very about like just putting together people based on their race. And unfortunately, for whatever reason, the audience of the College Fix has decided to barrage Evergreen with a bunch of hate mail and a bunch of harassing phone calls, which is very unfortunate. Very unfortunate. And I feel kind of responsible for that, right? So the question that I have is, in my capacity of somebody who is critiquing the far left, I am giving ammo to the far right. I'm giving ammo to people who want to go and harass people that they disagree with. I don't want to have anything to do with that. But I do absolutely feel that the far left needs to be taken down a notch and needs to be critiqued. And what I think is that the actual majority of people are neither far left or far right. Right? That the majority, even at Evergreen, the majority of people don't really want to have anything to do with this radical stuff. They are just kind of taken up into it. And they kind of lean to the left. They lean to the left. But we're in a state right now where anybody who criticizes the far left is far right, even if you're left of me. I don't even know where I am on this political thing, but I'm pretty sure that the people that I've hosted on my program, the people that I've talked to, both on my channel and other channels, they're pretty left, right? And even they, this intellectual dark web, are being construed as far right with the far left. So I'm rambling and stuff, and I'll go back to the comments because I think I'm running out of the train. But what I question is my audience, am I a tool for this far right thing? Am I a tool for this ethno-state? Am I this this tool of the white supremacists? I don't want to be. I don't know how to separate myself from them, but I do feel that I need to be more thoughtful, very careful in how I present data so that it's not misconstrued. But I don't know how I can have responsibility for what people do with the stuff that I produce. So that's enough, and I'm going to go back to these comments. We're going to go back up here. Lindsay Shepard's great. I want to have her on my show someday, but she's really busy. Okay, Gab. I'm just going to call you Gab. You say, you don't mind anti-white racism existing. It only really becomes a problem when it's part of an administrative institution. That's absolutely, I don't totally agree. Because I think racism itself is an infectious disease. Last year, one of probably my 10th episode on this whole Evergreen thing, I did an episode about Naima Lowe. And Naima Lowe, who is a very obvious character in the Evergreen thing. If I had the technology, I could put up the video. It doesn't matter, though. What she said is that racism is only racism when you have power, right? So racism is only racism when you have privilege and power. Then racism actually matters. But my question is that exactly how much power do you have before your racism actually becomes racism? I think we need to not have racism at all. Because who knows once you reach that threshold of effecting your racism in the world. And the problem with racism is that it starts to incite racism in other people. So it just starts up this whole back and forth thing, which is utterly ignorant. It's totally ignorant. The races don't matter. We are more, what we are as selves, as human beings, is much more in our software than in our hardware. And there is certain sort of racial things. There's absolutely, probably a lot more than we know, racial influences on certain sorts of rubrics or capacities that each of us have, right? Whether it's physical or mental or whatever. But any given human being can be any other culture. So the problem is culture, right? And how do you critique culture in a way that allows the people in that culture to not feel denigrated, but actually give them empowerment or give them insight into ways that they can be better for their own culture? And how can we look at a culture and appropriate it into our own lives and become richer and also give feedback of that culture, retranslate that culture in a way that actually enriches that culture that we're taking from that cultural exchange. So I'm clipping. Thank you. Test. All right. Am I too low? Can you guys see the chat? I hope you guys can see the chat. You can see the chat. It all goes back to the passions, Chicken Bridge. That's what I'm talking about, man. And that's why I think that a religion is really working at its optimum level when it's calming the passions. But the problem with the passions is that they're sticky and that they turn a religion into the devil. they always corrupt everything. So the religion needs to be anchored in personal development. That's why I think mysticism is the path of personal development within any given constellation of values or symbols or mythologies, which would be the religion at large, which allows for a place for people to be individuals but speak the same language. And I think that myth and story and fiction in its distilled form, mythology, is a form of relating to the world that is broad enough to incorporate somebody who's very different from you. A mythology has room in it for people to place their different, what are those different psychological, conscientiousness or industriousness. They're different personality traits. They're different concoction of personality traits. A mythology is something that when it's correctly concocted is something that everybody can resonate with. Even though they're resonating individually, we can resonate together. And by resonate, I mean we can view or experience something at the same time in the same way. Skylar, I did look into that Quizlnee project, and I did hear about that. Skylar, are you from Evergreen? So, do you guys want me to talk about the Quizlnee project? Hey Zara, what's up? For those of you tuning in, I'm just rambling right now, and I'm talking with the commenters and stuff, and I don't think I'm going to keep this up after I'm done talking, but maybe I will. The Quizlnee project's really interesting because the same people who were going after the throat of the person who very judiciously shut the Quizlnee project down, the same people who attacked Michael Zimmerman were the same people who attacked Brett Weinstein. The same people who were complaining about freedom of speech with the Quizlnee project were the same people who were trying to shut down Brett Weinstein's freedom of speech. It's utterly fascinating, utterly hypocritical. In brief, the Quizlnee project was taking a bunch of Disney-themed songs and plays and just changing the gender of those who actually perform those. So they didn't actually go through and change any of the words of this Disney-themed activity. They just changed the genders. And there was some legal problems with that the provost of Evergreen and multiple attorneys general said that, no, this is litigation territory. Disney is litigious. If you guys change things, if you change the work, that's one thing, but you haven't changed anything other than genders. So we can't have that down. And then the whole campus went into this big kerfuffle about that. So. Oh! Skylar! Contact me through Twitter. I'd love your feedback if you want to help me do a little episode on that. It's awesome that you were actually a cast member of that, because I don't like being in the hearsay land, and so much of the stuff that I'm reporting on is very inefficient and hearsay-y. So it's great when I get to primary source. So Brett and Heather are awesome. Hopefully Heather gets a channel of her own up and going. I'm talking to her at least about doing audiobooks. They do a lot of podcasts. They are very busy right now. Centre. I can't do the gongs. I don't have the technology. I didn't set this up. This is another thing that Matt Christensen is so awesome with. He has it all set. He's got it all put together when he does these live streams with Blonde in the Belly of the Beast. So I'll let you guys know that there is this wonderful YouTuber named Just Thinking Out Loud, or Desiree Just Thinking Out Loud, and she's been around, I think, as long as I have, and we are going to have little podcast together. Not podcast. I'm going to interview her next week. It's going to be great. I just want to say that there's this other YouTuber that I'm very fond of. I very much admire. Her name's Alice Void, and she is out of internet range right now, but we're trying to get something regular going on, but she's out of internet range right now. Yeah, racism, man. I really don't like it. It's so inexact. It's so inexact. For Ramadan this year, so I was talking about Ramadan and how I've done it. I'm not doing it this year, but I do want to focus on things that are more positive for the next month. I want to be less critical. There's a number of different ways to fast, right? You can fast from food, you can fast from sleep, you can fast from sexual intercourse. But you can also fast from being angry, you can fast from being critical. I'm going to really try to put on my non-snarkiness this month and kind of see if I can be entertaining and not be acidic at the same time. So I want to do, hopefully I can find some things to do that are humanitarian, positive, and that people find interesting and entertaining. Oli asks, is race realism a left position? Can you define race realism? John O, I've never been to Queens. I was in New York for 3 days, and it was crazy. It was totally insane for me. That blew me out of the water. It's not a place that I could survive in. I have a lot of stuff going on in my head, and that was too much stuff going on outside my head. I kind of made some errors with my sanity during that time, but that was a time when I was doing a lot of experimentation with my sanity. But I would love to go back there, especially if I ever get published. I'm going to need to go back there. So, I don't know. You know, the problem I have with Hemingway is that everybody loves Hemingway, and I hate whoever everybody loves. That's not true. But Hemingway was so simple, and I really like ornate fiction, so I just didn't like reading him. So I haven't read that stuff, and eventually I think I'm getting to a place where I can actually appreciate him, so I haven't read that. And I'm sorry if I offended anybody by dissing on Hemingway. He took a bullet for the team, so I should definitely respect him for that. That might have been kind of offensive. Take it off? Oh, you don't want me to be the thought girl, do you? I don't have the censorship capacity right now, so I don't want to show my nipples. Male nipples. Why are they a thing? You guys know why they're a thing? We all know why they're a thing, right? Because they develop before the sex is determined. But here's something cool. You guys probably already know this. This is one of my funnest facts. If you're a guy, you have these things called testicles. Well, I guess usually. Back in the day, guys had testicles. Anyway, so guys' testicles get hit sometimes, and it's very painful, but it's painful in the weirdest way, at least for me. It's like, oh, this is going to hurt, right? It's like you stub your toe, you're like, oh my God, this hurts so much. Why does it hurt so much? Doesn't make sense, right? Brett Weinstein actually did an excellent episode on his channel about why a stubbed toe hurts so much. But the testicles, why they hurt so much is because the mind has mapped those body parts. Okay, sorry. So when I get hit in the balls, like I feel the pain right here, like kind of comes up and it like gets right in here, and I just have to like sit down. I feel really nauseous, you know. But if you guys don't understand how I'm set up, my testicles are not right here, right? They're lower than that. But my brain, my neurology or my neural map has mapped my testicles on my body where they were before they distended in the womb. So that's why the testicles actually hurt inside of your body. That's my little fun fact for the day. Oh, God. Naked Lunch. William Burroughs. I should probably do a reading of that, because that's definitely an oral novel. That's an oral novel. I'm not going to do that, Gabe. Oli, who are your intellectuals that you really like? You don't like, you think Weinsteins are okay, Shapiro and Peterson are shit. I'd like to know your top-notch intellectual that's speaking right now. I'd like to know that. Pynchon. Oh, do I read Pynchon? I only read Pynchon because everybody read Pynchon. I only read Pynchon because he was the one that people praised. And I read V, and I couldn't get into it. And this is something that I realized rather late in my whole writing career, my whole fiction career, is that I have a really hard time processing things that are written. I'm a horrible writer. I'm an absolute dog shit writer. If I was more trained, well, no. If I was more disciplined and put together, I would have some pieces in Quillette that would actually be growing my channel and stuff. Like, I have things that I could say to Quillette, but I have a very hard time putting myself down in a linear fashion. I'm much better spoken out loud. So what I should do to get back to Pynchon is get some audiobooks of him and have him enter into me in this way. Black Knight Fool, you're an analytic philosopher. Well, if Teddy Pal was around, you two could have a great conversation. Teddy Pal is my resident analytic philosopher. He teaches me so much. David Foster Wallace, holy fucking shit. Holy fucking shit. Infinite Jest. Oh my God. Oh my God. That guy. I mean, I'm getting really sad just thinking about him. I wish he was able to get out of that, whatever trapped him. I guess him and Hemingway both took that way out. And I mean no judgment at all. It's an absolute tragedy when somebody takes their own life. That's something that you can't come back from. That's something that resonates with you. If you guys can get into a state where you're next to that place. I've been next to that place where I need to take myself out, and I haven't done it. I was graced not to do that, but find help. Find help. And I don't know what that help would be that would actually help you and stuff, but don't go that way. Anyways, Infinite Jest. Holy mother of God. That book is so fucking frustrating. You sort of like strangle a book. That's the only book I've ever wanted to just like strangle. Like there's books like, I don't like this, put it down. That book like, just stop it. Just fucking stop it. Good God, am I clipping? Brilliant, brilliant individual. He actually helped me out with learning how to put myself into the realm of the fictions and stuff like that. And very wise soul. And whoever replaced him, that Jonathan Franzen guy, I'm not too impressed with. Though, you know, if I ever want to be a writer, I actually have to suck up to him. But there's something about that guy that I don't like him so much. Junot Diaz. You guys hear about this guy, Junot Diaz? I looked for the book of him. Do you guys know who Junot Diaz is? He wrote this, The Life of Oscar Wu or whatever. Like, and I was assigned Junot Diaz in one of my Evergreen courses, and I was so pissed off by this writer. He was so freaking derivative. Like every single sentence on the page was something I'd heard before. Every character, every plot device, every way of fancily putting the book together. Like I've read this whole thing before. Like, why am I reading something I've already read before? And maybe that's why I don't read fiction, because it feels like, oh, I already read this book. Junot Diaz, though, turns out he actually was a poser. I won't get into that, but Schadenfreude. This Ramadan, shouldn't put that in there, but he seemed like a phony on the page, and it turns out he's got some personal problems too. Junot. Fantasy books. Oh, man. Listen, I had two dreams. This week. Or, speaking of fantasy, right? So I set up this interview with Thinking Out Loud, Desiree. If you guys remind me, I'll try to link her channel in the description. Just look up Thinking Out Loud. Wonderful commenter. Very young. Wonderful. Pretty wise. Anyways, so I was having some problems sleeping. I was very anxious, and I was very riddled with anxiety. And right before I fell into sleep, I was sitting at a table with this Desiree person who I've just previously set up a conversation with that we'll have next week. Anyway, so we were sitting down at a table, and she showed me this array of food. Right, and there's all these different kinds of food. And she said this weird thing. I can't really remember exactly what she said, but she said that all of this was prepared by the goddess alone. And then she reached into this pot of lentils, or this dish of lentils, and she pulled out this icon of the goddess Pele, which is the goddess of Hawaiian volcanoes, right? Anyway, so I contact her, and we're getting ready for our interview next week, and I'm like, you know what? Sorry, this is embarrassing. I don't need to put you off, but I had this dream. We were sitting, and you showed me the symbol and stuff. And she's like, oh, actually, I just made lentils last night, and I hadn't made those in a long time, and I just visited Hawaii, and I can't get it out of my head. So it's just really weird. Just really weird. And, like, I don't know how that fits into Darwinian theory, because I didn't hear at all that she had gone to Hawaii. I didn't hear at all that she ate lentils at all. But that stuff happens a lot in my life. So speaking of fantasy, that stuff, happens weird. I don't know how to explain it, and I don't know how to even talk about it without sounding kooky and like spirit forces and astral realms and stuff like that. And even though I do think that that stuff is real, I don't think that we actually understand it enough in order to talk about it in a way that is not foofy. But fantasy. I do read fantasy. I love fantasy a lot. You guys don't mind me talking like this. I remember really distinctly when I was a kid, we were sitting down at over dinner. And I was part of a big family. I'm the oldest of 5. And my dad asked this question. We had like this thought experiment. And I think I was like 10 or 11. And my dad's like, so when you're in heaven, what do you want to do? Or what do you want when you're in heaven? Right? Because we're Christian and my dad's a pastor. And I really remember this very distinctly, that the first thing I thought of, I just had this vision, not this vision or anything, but like this projection of being able to create worlds. Like that's just what I wanted to do. Is just like create worlds. Like if I ever get to be a god, like all I want to do is create other beings that create other things, right? And to set things into motion, to set worlds into motion. I don't know what exactly that means about me, or if that's just because I was growing up on the Bible and Tolkien a lot. But back to fantasy. Tolkien did something very amazing, and I don't think we've recovered yet from what Tolkien's done. And I've spent a lot of time trying to get to the next level of how books are written. I don't think I've done it. I'm not going to say that I've tried to do that, but I think Tolkien affected a sea change in what is possible in the realm of the fictions, and I think we're still recovering from that. I think that we're still playing that out. Like George R. R. Martin is basically he's still too reactionary to Tolkien. So I doubt, I'm very skeptical that he's going to be able to pull off his, that Martin's going to be able to pull off his thing, because he's caught up in not being Tolkien. So, but, you know, that guy has written some great stuff. I don't mean to diss anybody. Oregon's cool, Oli. Don't say fuck Oregon. Oregon's great. All right, Gabe. I just saw this really interesting question, but I don't know what you mean. Would I be able to cope with the suffering I would create as a result of what? I only see half of that, and you guys have been really chatting while I'm chatting at you. If you could restate your question, that sounds like a very strong question. I'd like to know if I'd be able to cope with the suffering I would create as a result of what? Of creating worlds. Oh. Oh, God. This is the problem. I'm going to start revealing parts of myself that are really private, but I don't think suffering's bad. I think causing suffering is absolutely bad, but I don't think that which created everything necessarily put suffering there as something that's evil. I don't think suffering is evil. I think suffering is necessary. I think suffering is an opportunity to grow. So I think that every one of us, I firmly believe this, going back to David Foster Wallace, and trying to be very respectful of somebody who's driven to like the utter extremity of being able to deal with the life. Like let's put ourselves in the situation of somebody who's so filled with suffering that they have to end it, right? I want to say, and this is probably optimistic and naive, I want to say that even no matter how much suffering there is, I think there's always help. And if I were able to be in the position of creating a world and creating beings that suffer and creating beings that are able to grow through suffering, I would still have to bite the bullet of accepting that there will be certain creatures that I make who cannot handle the suffering that they meet. And no matter how much I offer help, they will still have the freedom to either deny that or not be aware of that. And that's the tricky thing, right? It's like, even if we're offered it, it's one thing to deny the help that we're given, Sorry I'm being foofy, guys. Really sorry. We'll end this really soon. But even if we deny it's one thing to deny help. It's another thing to be ignorant of help. And who's responsible for somebody who's ignorant, right? Who's responsible for the person who suffers because they don't know how to stop suffering and aren't able to get out of that in any sort of willful, volitionary, or even faith-based means. I don't know. Like that's a really tremendous question that I think is worth posing. I'm glad you posed it, but it's something that I tremble before. Like maybe I don't have the capacity to be that responsible. Sorry, I suffered through Evergreen. Look what happened. I don't know how this happened. I don't know how I met you all. I really appreciate you guys. I don't know how to put this in a video without sounding foofy or emotional or sentimental, but I really appreciate being able to contact with you guys. It's absolutely a gift. Oh God, Zen man. Pug on thee, Zen man. Pug on thee. Brilliant, man. Okay, Chicken Bridge says good can come from suffering, but suffering is not part of the good. I don't know. Nietzsche really resonates with me, and I don't know exactly how much I agree or disagree with him, but he resonates with me. And I think that suffering and that trial, there's no way to prove the strength of a metal if you don't put it under stress, right? So it's actually, in a way, the stress is that which enables the good of the metal to be proved. So yeah, the stress itself is not good in and of itself, but it's that which enables the goodness to be proven. So that's my riff on that. Sound faggoty. We'll feel warm inside and then talk shit to you. That's great. Am I allowed to say faggots? I don't know. Let's be faggots together. I was called a faggot once when I was in 4th grade. The teacher called me a faggot. She was reading this book. I was the only one named Ben. This is probably why I don't like being called Ben. And like, there's this part of this book that she was reading where the bully calls Ben, who is the hero, probably a cock, who knows. Ben's a faggot, right? And everybody just looks at me. I'm like, why did you just call me a faggot? Why'd you call me a faggot? So I spent the next month going around and telling everybody that a faggot is a bundle of sticks. Faggot's a bundle of sticks. And you know what? If you get enough sticks together, just like the Smurfs taught us, if you get enough sticks together, they will not be broken. So, let us all be faggots together. Like just a very stalwart faggot floating down the stream. Internet opinions. I don't like Ben. There's something about the J that's really important to me. That's why I signed my name Benj, B-E-N-J, when I'm in a rush, or Benjamin when I have the time to write the whole name out. Okay. Do you guys have any more questions? I'm not really drunk. I have to work really early in the morning. How long have we been talking? Benji. Ugh, I don't like that. I like Benja. But Benji, I don't know. All right, if you guys are popping in, I'm just reading the comments. Sorry about my faces and riffing on things. Have I looked into paganism? Okay. Okay, so the thing about paganism is that just like Christianity, just like any religion, there's a bunch of crap on the top. It's like country music, right? Y'all can hate country music. Every once in a while, maybe there's a country song that like really gets you going, whatever, you know, but it's like really easy. Sorry if you hate country music, or sorry if you love country music, but it's really easy to denigrate, to look down on country music, right? Because it's kind of schlocky and it's very formulaic. But if you go down into where country music came from, if you go to the source, right? If you go into bluegrass, right? There's something alive and vibrant in bluegrass. So with paganism, with any religion, right? I really don't like when people criticize religions because they're usually just criticizing all that formulaic stuff on the top. They're not really getting into like the source, the deep spring where it springs from. So I've not found the source of paganism. I've read a lot. There's this one guy who wrote this impossible book, utterly impossible book, called The White Goddess. And the guy's name was Robert Graves. And he goes through hundreds, probably thousands of myths. And he makes this really long, rambly argument about this white goddess, about the pagan goddess. And the way that he lays that out, and the way that he kind of summons all these little bits of trivia and these very associative kind of lines between this alphabet and all these different stories and these trees and these birds and all these different mythologies and stuff. In there somewhere, I felt that there was the emergence of probably something that's Celtic when you go way back into things. And I do think that I'm Celtic, like my ancestors were Celtic. So there's something definitely that resonates with me. But the problem with time and the problem with people is that it corrupts things. And I think paganism itself got way too fractured to really put together for me. I haven't seen it really put together into its source where I can resonate with it. And I think that over that course of ages, some corruptions entered into it. And I don't want to piss anybody off. I think that the Bible, as a literary work, there's some corruptions in the Bible, and I just mean that strictly not on a theological level, but just on a textual level. And those corruptions, they kind of obscure what's actually being communicated in that. And unfortunately, I think paganism has been broken up too much in order for us to really get a forensic Bible out of it. But I only researched that probably 15, 20 years ago. So that's just my riff on that. Rachel, rain or shine, do I consider a cult a religion? I was having a discussion about the definition of a cult. And I think it's one of those, the distinction between a cult and a religion is so porous that it's actually, once you start looking at it, it starts to break down too much to be useful. I think that there are certain sorts of groups of human beings that are very important for us, for our psychic health, to avoid. And there are certain emergent properties of certain groups of belief or constellations of values, let's call them, that manifest certain behaviors that it's very important for us to be aware of. When I was very small, up until I was 5, so from birth to 5, my parents were involved in a cult, and that really wreaked havoc on their trajectory through life, and it derailed them for a really long time. So I've always been very sensitive to cultiness, and that's another weird thing about this whole Evergreen story, is that I was sensing this cult activity, but with Evergreen, it was decentralized. There was no leader that was actually controlling everybody. It was this crowdsourced cult, but there were certain behavioral emanations, and I'm not able to actually go through all these different manifestations of behavior that would be warning signals. I can feel them, but it would be authoritarianism. It would be anybody who starts messing around with other people's sexuality. That's very fundamental. If you can control people's sexuality or confuse their sexuality, then you really get into them on a very deep level. And that's the problem that I have with this whole gender stuff. Not that I have a problem with somebody who doesn't fit in all these categories. I have a really strong problem, probably going back to what we were talking about earlier, is when people with authority start messing with other people's conception of themselves, their sexuality, and stuff like that. So those are just a few of the things that I would distinguish. A body of human beings tied together that would make it culty. As opposed to a religion. A religion is something that does cement a togetherness or a sense of belonging, but that belonging allows for this breathability of human interaction, of self-expression, of personal growth, more than it diminishes. Though there's always going to be a give and take, so it's impossible to draw that line. Mm. Squirrel, CRU. What's Seattle thing? Warhammer is a video game, Cammy, or the board game. I remember painting little Warhammer guys when I was really young, but I haven't played it. Hey, Johnny! What's up, man? Thanks. If you know what it means, let us know. Apparently it's cosplay, and I don't have enough cleavage to go all out, so we just have a hat. All right, Ying Long. Benjamin A. Boyce should look a little deeper into paganism. It is not a religion in itself, but rather a category of many religions. Point of paganism is tradition, function, and life. Okay, so let me try to say that I did try to afford that I felt it was fractured. I felt that paganism was fractured. So without a central text or document, I'm not able to actually like agree or disagree with something. That's probably why I don't really like politics, because it's just all these different, religious texts just flying about. There's no central document. And what I do need to do after I get off this evolutionary biology kick is to really go deep into the founding of America. I think that's something I really need to get into, the core documents. What's my thoughts on Seattle's employee tax and the people who pushed it? I just heard about this Amazon tax. Is that what you're talking about? I just heard about that. I don't know enough about it. Hey, huge balls. Do you know Harry Ballsack? Guess you get together. Play some ping pong. I don't seem to have any cleavage. I'm not going to play around with my body in front of you guys. I don't have super chat enabled, or else I would. They won't. They keep on putting off. Guys, I don't want to show commercials. I just want to link to my t-shirts. Actually, if anybody's an artist, I need to start designing more t-shirts and stuff. I have some ideas. But I just want to be able to link to like ways where I can monetize myself. I don't want necessarily commercials, but like the whole super chat thing seems like a cool thing to do. But Google YouTube has been putting off my application for a very long time right now. I'm not complaining, YouTube gods. Okay, John's asking about this hat. So somebody looked it up on the internet and they found out about it. Okay, so Amazon tax is $275 per employee. Affects all large employers in Seattle. $275 per employee per day? Per hour? Per what? What's the per rate on that? R? All right, so if you guys are tuning in, I'm just chatting with this text field, and they're going to talk to each other. I'm going to talk to the camera. If you guys have any questions for me that I have enough knowledge to bullshit about, I'll bullshit about it. Ying Long, how do you want us to contact you about designing shirts? I know a graphic design artist. Okay, there's this thing called Twitter. My Twitter is at Benjamin A. Boyce. I don't know if that's difficult for you to get into Twitter. I'm also on Facebook. God, I hate Facebook. I'm so sick of Facebook. Really don't like Facebook, but my family's on there, so I'll stay on there. But, what size hat do I wear? This is 50% wool. 50% viscose. Seriously. That's the size. 14 and older. I don't know what size hat I wear. I think this is a medium. It's from Gravity Falls. And it's just Disney, so it doesn't have a size. One size fits all. I think it could belong to a whirling dervish. I am Bob. I'm getting called by an Evergreen teacher. I'm going to turn that off right now. So if you guys have any questions, I should probably wrap this up soon. I should have fireworks enabled for the grand goodbye. Chug another beer. What time is it? Okay. I could probably get this out and not feel too bad in the morning. If you guys not tired, okay. Greg C asked about retro games. Ever since I started this YouTube thing, it's very hard for me to get involved in video games. Like this whole editing thing that I do with the videos and like coming up with content on basically on the fly. I don't write down what I do before I do it. And then all this stuff, like that's been